Vikings and the Texans. The Texans can clinch home field advantage with a win at home against Minnesota. Let's go back to December 24th last year. Remember this? Adrian Peterson at Washington goes down with a torn ACL.
I don't want to watch this.
And who knew that a year later that he would come into this week with a real shot at breaking the all-time rushing record for one season?
Would have never guessed in a million years.
Still less than a season later, 294 yards short of Eric Dickerson's all-time mark of 2,105. Vikings opening possession, trailing by 3. There he goes. Not 82 yards like we saw last week, but 20 works.
And this Houston Texans defense came into this game giving up 93 yards on the ground. And you can tell they had their mindset on not letting Adrian get the record on them or get close to the record.
Mr. Christian motoring to the left.
He was motoring. He ran the ball well, had 48 yards rushing, and also was very efficient throwing the football. This was as good as we've seen Christian Ponder play in a while.
He was 3 for 3 for 62 on that drive. This is Blair Walsh from 56 yards out. Just enough. Vikings up 10-3. This is against the number 1 seed in the AFC, guys.
If I told you that AP was going to be held in check, what would you have said to me about the Vikings' chances today?
Not very good.
Well,
held in check there. Good effort, but no gain. That drive ended in a 41-yard Blair Walsh field goal. Vikings up by 10 at halftime, 13-3. Into the third quarter, still leading 13-3. AP off the right side, this time going for 21 yards.
Strong. And you always, every time you see him get the ball, you expect for him to take it the distance. But good tackling in that Houston secondary didn't allow him to break any long runs. That might have been his longest one.
Inching closer to 2,000. 5 plays later, J.J. Watt drops him for a loss of 3. Another Blair Walsh field goal made it Vikings 16-3. Next Minnesota possession, J.J. Watt. Is he your MVP? Defensive MVP?
Yes,
right?
He has to be. But everyone thinks of the sacks, but he affects the game in so many different ways.
I want to say, 14 tip passes as well?
Yeah, over 70 tackles.
Has 20 and a half sacks on the season. Speaking of sacks, down goes Matt Schaub, sacked by Fred Evans, and loss of 14.
Minnesota. That was terrible. That's a big boy dance.
Yeah.
Led to a field goal of 16-6. More Adrian Peterson, another 20-yard gain, slashing and sprinting out to the left. 25 for 86, 208 yards shy of Eric Dickerson heading into the final week against Green Bay. Fourth quarter, next Vikings possession. Christian Ponder moving around a little bit. Moving around a whole lot, Tom.
Yeah, Mr. Christian is motoring at this particular time.
We've been waiting for this.
He's been a better athlete this year than a thrower. He really has. Today, he put it together. As I said, very efficient from the pocket and outstanding on the run.
Toby Gerhart in for the touchdown. The Vikings go to Houston against the number 1 seed in the AFC and win easily.
If you look at the numbers deep inside, it was just complete domination. If you saw the scoreboard, you didn't watch the game, you probably would say, well, the Texans they made mistakes and ultimately they beat themselves. The Vikings defense held the Texans to 187 total yards, 2 field goals. Arian Foster held to 15 yards rushing on 10 carries. There were 1 for 11 on third downs. As good as Christian Ponder was being efficient, this game was won by the Vikings defense on the road.